Hi guys! It's time for another video! Can you fucking people please just stop starting your YouTube videos that way? It's a little played out. So I haven't done a video in a while. I've been very busy and no one listens to them anyway or cares. So why am I doing one? Have you ever noticed that sometimes you go on a video or you see a video and you click on it and the title of the video is kind of provocative and then you think it may be kind of stupid. You watch the video and then you see that, yeah, this is kind of dumb. And so then you look at the comments and all the comments are just, yay, you did a good job. That was a great video. I agree with everything you're saying. It's really good video. This is great. I just appreciate everything you do, man. And there's just hardly any criticism at all. I mean, you're saying all this crazy stuff and all this controversial shit and no one is saying anything about it. And it's got like 20,000 views or whatever, or, many times more than that, sometimes millions of views. So why is that? I mean, it just seems weird, right? Well, of course, one of the reasons, of course, is because just people are idiots and they just follow these people and they don't even think about what they're saying and they go, oh, I'm convinced now, yeah. And then, there's the other reason, which is perhaps more, well, I don't know which one is more egregious, but this one feeds into the other one, which is the fact that if someone comes on their channel and starts, or their video, and just starts criticizing the video and they can't really come back with anything, they just block them. And this goes on over and over and over again. It's happened to me many, many times, especially with right-wingers, because I guess I'm more on the left side of the political spectrum. So anyway, this happened to me again recently, where I was commenting on this ridiculous video. This is a response to AIU Resurrection, I guess, because I wouldn't be making a video responding to his stupid video, but he blocked me in the comments and it just pissed me off. So I'm blocked from saying anything on any of his videos. So I'm just going to make this video. It just makes me feel better. So he does this video where the title of it is provocative, but I thought it would be ironic. I didn't think it was for real. I thought it was just a joke. But it's not a joke, as it turns out. But the title is Brock Turner is an innocent angel who did nothing wrong. It just had to be a joke. Turns out it was a joke. It just wasn't an intentional joke. Why is he making the video? So he starts out because he's upset. He's upset. He got triggered that this judge was being witch hunted by these horrible people. These horrible people are just witch hunting this judge that made this decision in this case to sentence Brock Turner to only 6 months in jail, not prison, 6 months in jail. So he labels these people as progressives. Now, I don't think that everyone that was critical of this were progressives. I'm pretty sure, there's a good many of them weren't progressives. I think that they run the spectrum, actually, probably. A lot of people were very critical of that decision. 6 months for such a horrendous crime, it just seems really bad. But not only that, you have to keep in mind that the reasons why the judge did this, his reasoning was just really crazy. He said that he didn't do it because it would be damaging. It would be really damaging to the individual Brock Turner. I wonder if he has that same attitude towards all of the criminals that come before him. I'm betting not. Okay. So he says that, now this is the funny part. Well, there's lots of funny parts, but this is This is hilarious. So he says that these progressives are guilty of classism. They're guilty of racism. And they're guilty of sexism. So why is that? Why are they guilty of these things? Well, apparently, if you recognize when someone is getting cut a break because of classism and racism and perhaps sexism as well, then you are guilty of these things yourself. Yeah, that's the guy is looking through the telescope through the opposite end. That's what's going on there. So he's worried, that he'll be labeled a rape apologist. Rape apologist for saying, well, yeah, if you start apologizing for rapists, that's what happens. Compares this situation to Beauty and the Beast, which I actually thought was the good part of the video. I actually liked the Beauty and the Beast part. That was pretty funny, actually. So he says that the defender will be killed by the mob, if you defend the beast. And, of course, this circular reasoning, really, because he's assuming that the beast isn't really the beast. So, but anyway, he sort of equivocates a bit on the whole rape thing. Okay, yeah, people calling him a rapist. Technically, in the California law, it's not rape because he didn't penetrate with his penis, or at least the evidence doesn't indicate that he penetrated with his penis yet. Anyway, he didn't get a chance to, as it turns out. And in his mind, it's all reasonable doubt, and that this was all consensual. It was just reasonable doubt. The whole thing is just totally consensual. And the reason why is because the victim has no recollection of the events, including even meeting the guy. I don't really think that bodes well for Brock Turner's case if it's true. And he seems to be accepting it as true. One of the big things he does in this video is he totally mischaracterizes the eyewitness accounts and just completely distorts the way that they present what they saw and what happened from their perspective, and makes it sound like, oh, well, we saw these two people making out, and then we started yelling at them. And to be fair, I'm distorting a little bit. I'm exaggerating and being hyperbolic towards the way he presented it, but you can watch the video for yourself. I mean, it's sort of like that. Okay, let's go ahead and let's just see what the eyewitnesses actually said.
Take me back to that night and tell me where you were, what you saw.
Sure, it was me and a friend, Peter. We were biking. We were right outside this fraternity house, essentially, and we saw a couple. My friend started noticing that something seemed weird. When we looked closer, we could see that the girl clearly wasn't moving while the male was. Then we stopped, started discussing it. Then my friend Peter took action and started approaching it. I walked behind him. We essentially called the guy out. After a while, after a brief conversation, the guy decided to run. My friend Peter chased after him. Then I quickly tended to her and then helped Peter restrain him until the police came.
Did he seem
But he essentially was saying that he wasn't doing it. No.
He didn't seem drunk to you?
I mean, he could run, so I guess that answers the question.
When you first approached,
speak without slurring at all.
When you first approached him and you were talking to him before he took off running, was the woman, was she standing or was she lying on the ground? Was she moving? What was going on with her?
So like I said, she wasn't moving at all. That's why we approached him initially. And then when I first attended her, I tried to shake her up. Nothing happened. I checked that she was alive, and then essentially went over there. But yeah, she was never moving.
So AIU actually claims that the victim was not unconscious. He just doesn't believe that she was really unconscious, even though that's what the eyewitnesses said that they saw. She was unconscious from the time that they saw her until she woke up later in the hospital at like 4:30 in the morning. It was 1 a.m. when they came upon her. He makes a claim that she wasn't unconscious. Right after he says this ridiculous shit, he says this completely... Okay, I'm just going to play it. This is so stupid. I'll play it and then I'll explain exactly. If you don't catch it, we'll talk about exactly why this is so dumb.
So it's all been exaggerated and it's all gotten to a hysterical level. And this whole thing of behind a dumpster, absurd. First of all, he met this girl at a party, at a dance, at a club. At a dance, listen to me. Jesus. It was a sock hop. Okay. They hooked up, they were grinding, they were kissing on the dance floor. He said, hey, do you want to go back to my dorm room? They're on their way back to the dorm room. She stumbles and falls. He falls to the ground too. They're laughing, ha ha ha. It's a romantic comedy. It wasn't, hey, let's go find the nearest dumpster. Okay. It was a spontaneous sexual act during a drunken night of hooking up with a girl. So the whole thing.
So this is hilarious. So he's getting, you know where he's getting all this? He's getting all that from Brock Turner's statement, and not his statement to the police. No. This was a statement way after that, which changed over time. His statement changed over time, so let's keep that in mind. Doesn't mention any of that. He's just talking about the statement, and he actually recognizes that it sounds like a romantic comedy, and it doesn't even cross his mind. Wait a minute. Why does it sound like a romantic comedy? A romantic comedy that winds up with a girl having a bunch of debris in her vagina and some guys coming up on what's an apparent victim here. Yeah, that doesn't sound like much of a romantic comedy. I must have missed the romantic comedies that end up that way. But what's funny is he doesn't even question it. It's just, yeah, it's a romantic comedy. Yeah, that's what happened. It was like a romantic comedy. And that's just bad enough on its face. But when you get into the rest of what he says, so he goes into, so from there, he just goes into Brock Turner's story and goes into does like this victim blaming thing. But then at a certain point, he says this.
You know the skepticism we use when we determine whether or not there is a God? By the way, there isn't. You know the scientific method? That brand of reason should be applied to cases like this. It should be applied to everything. So let's look at Brock's words. What did he say? I was an inexperienced...
So I'm not going to get into this just yet, because just think about what he just said. So we're going to be just super skeptical. We're going to be so skeptical. The same way we're skeptical about the whole God thing. But before we hear how he reads this, let's hear how he reads... he's going to later in the video read the victim statement. So let's see how, just get a little sample of how that goes.
I made silly faces, let my guard down, and drank liquor too fast, not factoring in that my tolerance had significantly lowered since college. Okay, so this is a girl going out, looking to have a good time, looking to party, and she's choosing to drink. I was very calm and wondering where my sister was. A deputy explained I had been assaulted. Really? That's an assumption, isn't it? When I was finally allowed to use the restroom, I pulled down the hospital pants they had given me, went to pull down my underwear, and felt nothing. Okay, well, you had a consensual hookup session with a dude, and you consented to him fingering you, so that's what happened there. Then I felt pine needles scratching the back of my neck. Oh, it's like ASMR for victimhood. Pine needles, yes, you were hooking up on the ground on a college campus. You got a little dirty. It ain't the end of the world. I was asked to sign papers that said rape victim, and I thought something has really happened. Oh, really? because there was a piece of paper that said rape victim. So then you thought, oh yeah, well, yeah, I guess I was raped. Needles for shots, pills, had a Nikon pointed right into my spread legs. They did the rape victim thing because they thought you were a rape victim. And you went along with it, even though you weren't a rape victim. But here, my boyfriend did not know what happened, but called the next day and said, I was really worried about you last night. You scared me. Did you make it home okay? I was horrified. Okay, this is really the crux of the whole thing. The story better be you were victimized and raped. In that scenario, she didn't cheat on the guy. Any other version of this, she's a cheater. She's a slut and a cheater. That's what she'll be called, and that's what she's worried about. Everyone saw them kissing on the dance floor. So she is now forced to lie because she has a boyfriend. I'm going to make the guy I hooked up with, I'm going to call him a rapist. And I'm going to say I had no part in it. I don't have a single recollection of this night. This is heinous bullshit. This is like some magical excuse. Just, oh, I was blackout drunk. I recall nothing. I was not ready to tell my boyfriend or parents that actually I may have been raped behind a dumpster. Again, this dumpster. Would this have been better if it was at the dorm? I read and learned for the first time about how I was found unconscious. I call bullshit and had been penetrated by a foreign object by someone I did not recognize. Okay, that's horseshit. A guy you didn't recognize? Okay, well, that's on you. I don't believe that, for starters. But
So now let's hear how he read Brock Turner's statement.
after a period of time of just hanging out inside the party and being on my phone, I see the other girl that was on the patio when my friend and I were talking about drinking beer. I go up to her and I tell her that I liked her dancing. We started talking together since I thought we had hung out for some amount of time before. I asked her if she wanted to dance, so we began to dance together and eventually started kissing each other. I bring up the idea of her coming back to my dorm room and she agrees to accompany me back there. We begin walking back to my room towards the path that would eventually lead up to my house. Okay, so the guy hooks up with one girl, then he hooks up with that girl's friend. And this is all consensual, they're dancing, there are eyewitnesses to all of this. This is not a made-up story, this is not hard to believe or understand. And granted, this is his point of view, but this all seems incredibly normal to me. So, I mean, is anybody making the case that he kidnapped her? That he dragged her outside? That they didn't know each other? That they weren't hooking up inside? That wasn't consensual? Nobody is making that case. This is a guy taking a girl to his dorm room to hook up with. Period. Consensually. During this time, we walked down a slope in the direction toward the path we were heading. The next thing I realize is that we were both on the ground laying next to each other because it seemed as though she lost her footing heading down the slope and I went down with her. Okay. We started laughing about it, and I was just thinking of how much of a klutz I could be. I asked her if she was all right, and she tells me that she thought she was. After this happened, we started kissing each other again on the ground on which we fell. When this started to happen, the thought of making it back to my dorm room left my head. So the guys in the moment, they're having a drunken night, they're stumbling out of a club or frat house, and this is just normal Americana. What part of this is rape or sexual assault? This is assuming that this is accurate, which I tend to believe that it is, because I have no evidence that this didn't happen, and this seems completely normal to me. Also, why would a guy force himself on a woman when he is sexually successful? He's hooking up with multiple women that night, he's in a good mood, he's not desperate or angry or violent by nature. I thought things were going fine with her, and that I just existed in a reality where nothing could go wrong or nobody could think of what I was doing as wrong. Never did I question the fact of where her and I were and where we should have been. I naively assumed that it was accepted to be intimate with someone in a place that wasn't my room. Negating all these factors, I bring up the thought of sexual interaction with her. I idiotically rationalized that since we had been making out where each of us fell to the ground, that it would be a good idea to take things a step further since we were just in the heat of the moment at that location. I pull away from kissing her and whisper in her ear if she wanted me to finger her. She responds to me and acknowledges what I said with saying, yeah. Okay. So he's trying to take things further. He's gauging her reaction. He asks for consent. She gives consent. Okay. Having heard her response, I decide to take her underwear off, thinking that since it was established that I would finger her. After doing so, I began to kiss her again and then finger her until I thought she was satisfied with the sexual interaction that had taken place, based on her moaning and the way in which she held onto me with her arms on my back. While this was occurring, I asked her if she was enjoying what I was doing, to which she gave me a positive response. The beer and the alcohol I had consumed began to unsettle my stomach. I began to experience nausea. Eventually, I get my feet underneath me and start walking down the slope to find an appropriate place to throw up. At this moment, I realize that there is someone trying to get my attention that is quickly headed in my direction. I started walking away from the slope in which her and I were to continue to seek a location in which to throw up. Before I could even think of a response as to what to say to him to try to appease whatever his concerns were with me, I find my arms being dragged by him. This caused me to think that he was trying to fight with me or mess with me in some way, and I had no idea why. Fear went through my body, which caused me to resist him in any way I could. I broke his physical connection to my body and tried running away from him, soon finding myself on the ground with him holding my arms down and preventing me from ever getting up. I thought it was a good idea that the police were coming because I thought they would help me. Once the police arrived, I finally stood up until I heard that I would have to get back on the ground and put my hands behind my back. I was shocked to realize that it was me who they were arresting.
Well, that was a pretty big difference, wasn't it? Didn't hear all the skepticism we heard that we were going to be applying to this case. Where was it? We heard it on the victim's statement. It really wasn't even skepticism, but he would probably call that skepticism. It was really just, I'm going to attack everything in the statement I can possibly attack. It was just, I'm going to be a dick to this victim is really what it turns out to be. That's what you have from this guy. And it's actually even worse than that, because he goes over these things and falsely claims that the only evidence we have is the statements from these two people. And that's just incorrect. And he completely just bulldozes over any reasons the jury gave on why he got convicted. Doesn't talk about that at all. Another thing he doesn't talk about is the fact that this guy lied. At some one way or another, he lied. So there were contradictory statements from the statement that AIU has read from Brock Turner. He told the police that he met the girl outside of the frat house, not inside. Furthermore, I think AIU lied and said that there were witnesses that saw him dancing. No, there were no witnesses that corroborated that story. It just didn't happen. So that's just not true. The guy made that shit up. He met her outside just like he told the cops. He also told the cops asked him if he had asked her to go back to his dorm. And he said no. He did not ask her that. Furthermore, it just seems like you would have a red light would have come on at some point in every part of his story where the girl is saying something. It's always yes. That's all she ever says in the whole story, pretty much. It's just yes. And the fact that the guy has just accepts his claim that I asked her if, hey, can I finger you? And she said yes. Come on, man. Have a little bit of, just raise an eyebrow, maybe. Do something. Don't just accept that shit on face value. But I don't know. This is just so ridiculous. No, you totally misrepresented the eyewitness accounts. You totally bulldozed over any evidence that the jury actually considered when convicting the guy. No, they didn't just listen to these two people's statements. And furthermore, you read the statement of the victim after the verdict went out. So the jury didn't even hear that. That's not what they heard. You're making it like this was the case that the jury heard. This was the only evidence in the case. No. So another piece of evidence that we haven't talked about was the fact, and I think this was a big piece of evidence in the case, and the jury mentioned it pretty strongly. So she called her boyfriend and left a message, and that was presented to the jury, and the message was completely incoherent, just incomprehensible, because she was so drunk. So this was before she met Turner. And she was so drunk at the time that she couldn't speak. And by the way, Turner was trying to hook up with people at the party that were not in the state that she was in and was unsuccessful. And furthermore, he had a bad reputation among his fellow swimmers of just being inappropriate towards women. But here's what actually happened. And because it's that piece of evidence about the tape, about the recording, it was so that to me that makes it so obvious that this guy was looking to have some kind of action and saw a situation he could take advantage of. Like, this girl's just, oh my God, she's out of her mind drunk. I can really take advantage of this. Met her outside the frat house, dragged her somewhere where he could not be seen. Unfortunately, he was not successful at that. But he dragged her behind this area. She, at some point, passed out. She probably passed out, and he had to kind of carry her along and just found a place where he could set her down and then just proceeded to have her way with her. Now, whether they were making out or whatever before that, I don't even think that's consequential. I think that this was a guy who took advantage of the situation, got caught trying to fuck an unconscious person. She was unconscious. That's what the witnesses said. 2 people. And AIU tries to make the argument that he goes to the lengths of saying that, oh, well, and this was his comment to me. Oh, well, he was just so confused when these 2 guys came up to him, so he ran. I mean, have you ever heard something so ridiculous? Come on, man. Even by your own admittance, he is aware of a situation where he could be in trouble. So he wasn't so fucked up he didn't know what was going on. He was estimated at 0.17 at the time. She was estimated at 0.2 fucking 5. I mean, this is ridiculous. He ran away because he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he was in big fucking trouble because he got caught, and these guys weren't going to let him get away with it. And the police didn't let him get away with it. These weren't just progressives out to get someone that's white or however you wanted to frame that. That's white and male, or however you wanted to frame that. No, assaults do happen. Sexual assaults happen. Rapes happen. This guy got caught. I guess that's all I got. So that's enough. I've talked long enough. I made my point. Bye, guys.